Today's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast is presented by our friends at Wonderlust Videos and MusicBed.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is John Bunn. You probably know that by now if you've been listening for a while, but we say it every time because we love hearing our names. The other name behind this podcast is Mr. Nick, Kansas City Royals Miller. Dude, I'm sorry. I just have to say I'm sorry. You still like the Royals. Baseball, I think this is the new thing that we do at the beginning of the episode as we talk about baseball. I hope this trend ends after this week. But anyway, I know you got a lot going on. Say hello. How are you doing? What is new? Welcome to April, mid-April at this point almost. What's new?
Yeah, it is April. I am doing well. My kids are enjoying the spring weather. You know, it's nice that they get home from school and it's not dark at 5 p.m. and we can actually go outside and go on walks and, you know, be with each other out there in the nice weather. So I love a good springtime. Not as good as fall. I'm always gonna say that. But
I disagree.
Springtime is very, very nice. So, but things are going well, going great over here. What about you?
I'm obviously very excited about the next couple of weeks with How to Film Weddings. We've got our Secret to Sales coming out, our free workshop next week. Our course, the doors are going to be open starting next Tuesday on the 16th. But yeah, I mean, as far as like family, what else going on? Again, I'm in the throes of track season. I didn't know I was a track dad. It's actually kind of fun to watch Anna, our 13-year-old, running long distance. So we're in that. We're really excited about getting into summertime. We love that vibe. I'm about to go to Georgia here in about 2 weeks to film a wedding for a client that I've been talking about on the podcast now since July. I'm just so excited about it. I'm sure you're excited to stop hearing me talk about it. But yeah, we're going to do some behind the scenes out there. Blake and I are shooting. I'm pretty sure your boy Nick is joining us.
That's the plan. That's the plan. Yeah.
Make sure you're coming out there too and doing some meetups and things like that. But yeah, it's a really fun time of year to be a wedding filmmaker, especially here in the States or anyone in the Northern Hemisphere, really, where we're getting into spring, getting into summer. Leads are starting to come in. We've been talking, Nick, about this Secret to Sales workshop, or the workshop that we're doing. This section we're doing. And so like, we're going to dig even deeper today. What else you have to add?
Yeah. I'm really excited about that workshop, Secret to Sales. And if you would like to, get more information about that and register for it, you can head over to howtofilmweddings.com/sales. But John, before we get into this week's topic where we're going to talk all about consultations and discovery calls, I want to talk about our friends over at MusicBed and some of the cool things that they are doing. One of the things that they are doing, they hear us whenever we say the music selection process can take a really long time. It can take days, to find the perfect song, but they are helping us out with the power of AI. You can now in MusicBed, okay, you can type in any song that you can think of. If you're like, I know John loves his Taylor Swift, and so you're like, I need a Taylor Swift Karma vibes song. And then MusicBed is going to scour through their library and they're going to find music that matches up both tonally and musically with that song that you are looking for. Some of the stuff that it's going to save so many people so much time, because I know a lot of times we're looking for music. It's like, man, if I just had a song that sounded like the Lumineers, I just want that. But it was really hard to go in and find that sort of stuff. So now MusicBed offers that, an incredible tool. And right now, if you're interested in making the switch to MusicBed, they are doing a 14-day free trial. And if you would like to get hooked up with that, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed, and all the information is over there. So
I love me some MusicBed. Yeah, I love me some MusicBed. Love me some Taylor Swift. So very happy about that. Nick, you mentioned it. We're in part 3 of our Secret to Sales series. And today we are going to be digging a little bit deeper into your consultations, your discovery calls, and just thinking through some of the things, we've talked already in this series about finding your ideal client, attracting them, building a brand, that sort of thing. And now we want to kind of dive into something that I think most of us aren't very great at. And that is, we get to the point where we're trying to sell our services and we completely clam up. We completely forget everything we know about being a human. We forget how relational it is to have this wedding business, and it's not transactional. And we get straight to the nitty gritty, the details. We don't take the time to give that experience to our couples and just hear from them and learn what's important to them. And so, if you've had an inquiry happen, you've now got a call, you got a Zoom call or in-person call, you're going to definitely want to tune into this episode to make sure, or you're already tuning in this episode. You might want to really listen,
Turn the volume up. Turn the volume
turn
up.
it to 11, just one louder. But anyway, most wedding filmmakers, Nick, are not good when it comes to presenting themselves to their upcoming couples. And I wish that I could say that I have always been really good at this, but I remember early going, I'm talking 2008, I think so for me, that my first client that wanted to meet before before booking, and they were like, meet us at Hideaway Pizza. It's over here on this spot, whatever. Just come with all your details and your contract and we'll talk. We'll have pizza. And I was just like, what does this even mean? I ran to Office Depot. I bought like these silver metallic folders that had like slots for papers in them. I went to Quick Print, which is our printing area like thing here in town, and like had all these brochures printed up, my pricing. I had things laminated. I had business cards printed that like fit in the little slots in the paper. And like, I had no idea what I was doing. I had prices on there. I got to dinner. I was so nervous. And I just remember like opening this thing up, handing all these papers around. There's wet rings on the table from drinks that I'm trying to hand. It just made it completely uncomfortable for everybody, and tried to walk them through line by line every detail about what I do, the kinds of cameras I use. And looking back on it, I laugh. Somehow they still booked me, which was great. I think they booked me for $1,000, but and pepperoni pizza. So I mean, maybe the pizza, I have no idea, but I did buy dinner. But it was the bride, the groom, and the bride's mother, and they were asking me all these hard questions. I was making stuff up on the fly, writing down notes like, yeah, I can do that, sure. And I'm like, make sure to do this thing. And I just didn't know what I was doing. And then like my pricing was, what do you guys think about? What do you think about like $1,000? It wasn't written. It was just so underwhelming. And since then, I've done over 1,000 consultations. I've learned a thing or two. And I know, Nick, that you've done hundreds, if not thousands as well, where you're just digging in. Consultations can be scary. And so in this, today, we're going to dig into like how to do these things better. And after over 1,000 consultations, I've learned a thing or two. And what's interesting is you put in all this work, you do all these things, you get your branding right, you get the inquiry, you do all this stuff to get to the starting line. The starting line is, okay, now we're having a conversation. I know that you're talking to other videographers or planners or other, like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. And a lot of us just say, here's the menu, book us whatever you want. I don't want to fight for your wedding. I'm uncomfortable because I'm nervous you're not going to book me. So like if you need a discount, and we mess all these things up. So Nick, we want to help mentor people on what they need to do to like up their chances at getting couples to say yes. And I wanted to say this, one of our freebies that we're giving away, if you go to howtofilmweddings.com/sales, is an actual call from the wedding that I booked that I'm going to film in a couple of weeks. They booked me for $18,000 plus travel, no questions really asked. And I want you to see kind of a behind the scenes of that consultation call. They've given me the clear to share it with you. So if you head over to howtofilmweddings.com/sales, it will be one of the freebies that you get, plus a behind the scenes look at our course, by going over there today and checking that out. But that call is a 45-minute or so call, and you can watch how I do a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today. Nick, as always, I've been talking for a while. What do you want to add before we get into leveling up our consultations and discovery calls?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing that I want to offer is I just thought that I was a person a while ago that just wasn't good at sales. And that's why I didn't want to hop on a phone call with anyone. That's why I didn't want to do that. And I was like, I'm just not good at it. I'm just not good at it. So therefore, I'm not even going to try. Like anything else in this world, if you want to get good at something, you're going to have to try and do it, right? You're going to have to, flex those muscles. You're going to have to work out. You're going to have to go and get some reps in and do it more and more. And so if you're not comfortable with consultations and you want to get comfortable with consultations, the thing that you really need to do is consultations. And maybe people aren't inquiring with you. So maybe you reach out to some friends and be like, hey, let's pretend here that you are interested in this, and let's kind of go through these kind of things so that you can get those reps, so that you can do those things. So I want to give you that encouragement if sales isn't your thing, but you really want to try these discovery calls, because the personal connection and connecting with other people is really what is going to make your booking rates go up. It's going to make your sales rates go up. It's going to make all of those things go up by having this personal connection with them. So the first thing that we talk about, and we have 5 or so things here that we want to talk about leveling up your consultation calls and your discovery calls, however you want to think about that. The first one is going to be to set the atmosphere that you want for the call. And I think that if this were in 2019, this conversation might be a little bit different than it is today. But here we are in 2024. And I think that most people are having these meetings on their computer over Zoom, over FaceTime, over Google Meet or Hangouts or whatever it's called. And that is where a majority of these things are happening with you. And so you need to set that atmosphere up. You need to set it up well. If you are a videographer, which you are, if you're listening to this, most of you, right? There's probably some photographers in here that are listening to this, but if you're a videographer, you have the potential to make your Zoom calls look really, really nice. Do it. It's going to set you apart. I think that so many people are using their DSLR or their mirrorless camera as their webcam. I think that everyone's doing that, because that's what I do. And I can't tell you how many times I hop on a call with a potential client and they comment, man, you look so good. You look so professional. Like, have you done this before? Like those kind of joking and that kind of vibe. But it's setting that atmosphere that I am a professional and I have done this and I do know what I am doing. So set that atmosphere for your call. Again, if you're doing it online, invest in figuring out how to set your camera up as a webcam. You can get something like a cam link if your camera does not hook up to your computer natively, so that you can use it for a webcam. If you like those in-person meetings where you want to go to a restaurant or, go to some place for drinks or kind of whatever it is you're having those calls, we would recommend picking a place that really fits with you as a brand. Okay. Now, for some people, this is going to be like a swanky steak place. For other people, we're going to the brewery down the street and we're just going to hang out and have a beer. It just really depends. But the biggest thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you can talk. Okay. If you're at a place and the music is so loud and you can't hear them, they can't hear you, that is going to possibly be a deterrent for them booking. So if it's an in-person thing, I would say make sure it fits the brand and you also are able to have a conversation with them. John, anything you want to add about setting the atmosphere, about setting the mood?
Oh man, I love setting the mood. Oh man. Whew. Okay. Anyway, I will say this: 4 or 5 weeks ago, I went to dinner with one of my couples that I'm going to be filming this summer, and we've already booked, but this again was almost like a consultation. It was like a discovery call. It was like our first in-person meeting. And this is something that I like to try to do if possible. A lot of my couples are from out of town, so we do Zoom calls and then we get together if they're going to be in town or if I'm going to be in town or what, if it works. One of the things that the groom said to me, and this is, the $30,000 booking, and the bride and groom were talking about why they ended up picking me. And he said, man, when we jumped on that first Zoom call, I said it to Anita afterwards. I was like, man, this guy is no joke. Look at his Zoom setup. Like, if he takes that much attention for his Zoom setup, we knew immediately that like you were the right fit for us. And like those little things do add up. So setting the atmosphere for your call, if you don't have a nice camera to put in or whatever, like just make sure that like the lighting is nice, that you don't look like a ghost. I know MacBooks do that sometimes, or iMacs do that, or like what does the background look like? Are you just in a loud coffee shop? Or is your internet connection good? Is it going to sound good? Like all these things. And then make sure that if you're using something like a webcam or your laptop, that it's like at least at eye level. Like I don't know how many times we get on a call and it's like someone just looking down towards a laptop and you can see right up their nose, and it's just like, oh, it's just not a good look. And there's just something about that subtle setting the tone or setting the atmosphere that like really sets you apart and moves us into the second point here that we wanted to get into, which is to set the tone for the conversation. And I think a lot of times we come into a meeting where it's just like, hey guys, I'm the video guy. What questions do you have? Or, here's my package prices. Here's a little bit about me or whatever. And there's no real tone set. Again, like how Nick was saying about finding a place that fits the vibe of your brand. The tone that I want to set, I want to match the vibe of my brand. So for me, I want to feel like a helper and a guide. I want to feel like maybe you're a big brother that's been there for you before, or, I'm a dad of 2 little girls, and like, I'm just setting the tone for the conversation. And so I let them know up front that my goal isn't just to sell them. I will say something like, hey, I just want to throw it out there at the beginning of this call. I'm not here to just see if I can take some of your money. I would love as much of your money as you want to give me, but that's not my goal. And they'll laugh and, or something like that, where I'm making light. It's like, hey, we're here because you're looking at hiring me. But my ultimate goal isn't what can I do to finagle you into booking with me. I'm setting the tone that you can trust me. And I will say things like, I've been doing this for over 15 years. My books always fill up. I'm not here to twist your arm to make you want to work with me. My goal today is to see if we're the right fit for each other. So ask me the hard questions. I'm going to, be asking you questions about what you're wanting out of your wedding film. And, I want to see if we're the right fit. I want to serve you. I want to take the time and help you understand some things today. Like I'm setting the tone that I'm the guide and they are the hero. The whole story brand, Donald Miller's building a story brand vibe, which is like, this conversation isn't about how I can make John Bunn look awesome. I'm going to subtly try to work things into conversation to make them know that I know what I'm doing, that I'm going to take care of them, that I understand them. But I have to set that tone early so they're not in defense mode. My goal is to take them from a transactional experience to a relational experience. Wedding filmmaking is very relational. It's not very transactional. Catering is more transactional, or, something, you're stationary. It's like, I need paper products. I want invitations. And yes, you can make those things relational. If you do stationary as well, don't DM me. But the point is, your wedding film, like there are videographers where it is just transactional. I'm going to show up, I'm going to film, and I'll give you a music video and let's move on. If you're wanting to get out of the middle of your market, if you're wanting to charge more, you've got to set yourself up in a way that's not just transactional. And so set the tone for the conversation. Let them know early how it's going to role. You're setting the plan. You're letting them know, hey, this is how it's going to work. That sort of thing. The tone is really, really important because we're creatures that are always on the defensive. We're worried about threats. It's in our DNA. We're making sure that we're safe, we're protected. And if they feel that they're unsafe in the situation and that you're a bad, icky salesman, they're going to do the meeting, but they're never going to book you. Nick, what do you want to add about setting the tone?
Yeah, I really like how you joke, and this is in line with who John Bunn is, right? Where you're like, I would love to take all of your money. Like, I want to take as much as you're going to give me, but I'm going to make sure we're the right. I like that because you're kind of diffusing this thing just a little bit by joking about it, right? That's the most awkward part of any single call that you're going to do with anyone is whenever you get into talking about money. And it's almost like we treat it as, oh, I'm going to do everything I can to not bring up money because it's awkward and it makes me feel bad or it makes me feel a certain way. And so we're just going to kind of, oh, and by the way, this is how much I would charge if you want to check it out, like that sort of thing. And so I like when setting the tone, how you're like, I want to work with you. I want you to hire me. I want you to pay me, but I'm not just going to take your money because I want it. Like, I want to make sure we're a good fit. So I really like that with setting the tone of the conversation. And then the other thing that we want to go into is be conscious that you are the one that is leading the conversation, that you are steering the conversation, that you are the guide when it comes to talking to them. One of the things that I will do very early on in our call is like, hey, basically give them the format. Hey, we're going to spend a little bit of time. I'm going to talk to you a little bit, get to know you about your wedding day. I'm going to tell you about me. And then we're going to go over the pricing information, or, we're not going to talk about pricing in this call. I'm going to take some notes and then I will email you that afterwards in a couple of days or something. But one of the things that you can do as the guide is let them know that you are in control and you are handling the meeting and you are handling it in a certain way. I will say that one of my big red flags that I have for consults is whenever the person that I am talking to takes over. And maybe it's just a personality thing. Maybe it's just how they run and they're just trying to get but it really messes up with my flow as I'm trying to talk to them. And also I have filmed a couple weddings for these types of people, and it was a nightmare from day one that they hired. And so for me, it's like, I need them to let me be the guide and lead the conversation. Okay. So that's the step number 3 is, I would say, is just setting those expectations that you are going to be the leader. You are going to be the guide as you talk to them through this entire process.
Yeah. I think about it like, at a restaurant, if we get to a restaurant and it doesn't need to be a swanky restaurant, but let's say it's a nicer restaurant and the host walks you in, sits you down, and you sit down and there's some, conversation, you're ordering a drink. The waiter is just like, you guys, whatever, like, do you want to eat? If you want to eat, let me know. I'll be around. Just whatever. Like, the experience isn't as good as if a waiter comes up and says, hi, my name's John. I just want to let you know I'm going to be taking the best care of you tonight. This is going to be the greatest meal that you've ever had, or whatever. I'm going to let you look at these drink orders. I'm going to be back in 2 minutes. I'm going to recommend some appetizers for you, and then we'll get going with the entrees. I guarantee you we're going to find something that you absolutely love, or you're not, whatever. And you're guiding, like, that person's guiding them. Man, that's a much better experience, and it's serving. It's not, I'm guiding you to manipulate you, but if you think about like some of the best meals you've ever eaten, or the best experiences you've had at a restaurant, is it when you walk up to the counter at McDonald's and they're like, what do you want? I'll take a number 2. Cool. Yeah, that's fine. But you're not going to get a top dollar for a McDonald's type experience. And the cool part about our brands is that's like, there's not only one kind of expensive dinner place out there. You can be expensive and be completely different than your swanky steakhouse. You can be a vibey bar or restaurant. You can be all these different things in your business. And if you're not the one that's leading the call, you're actually setting yourself up in a way that doesn't have any authority through this whole process. I can't tell you how many times in the 1,000 consultations or so that I've had that, like, when I start leading the conversation and not taking control, I'm guiding it. I'm guiding the conversation where I want it to go. I'm not just letting it go anywhere and everywhere. It sets me up as an authority for them. And then they start asking me questions. Well, what do you think about this? Should we do our ceremony right at sunset? What do you think about a first look? Should we involve I've seen this. What is your experience? They start like asking questions because they realize, oh, this John guy has a lot of information. And if you're leading the conversation, they're starting to let that guard down from the transactional into relational. They start getting warmed up to you and realizing, oh, okay, this person, like, you can feel it in the conversation shifting where they're like, oh, this person is here to help me. They're like, this could be the right fit for me. You start inserting things into the conversation, assuming the sale. Oh, when I arrive at your wedding, I'll get there at this time. I'll be getting there about 2 hours before you put your dress on. I'll have the drone. I'm going to do the rehearsal dinner. I'll take care of all that. You don't have to worry about this. I'm going to light whatever. You're leading the conversation. And there's just something about feeling like that person, that waiter at the restaurant knows that you love steak and you're usually a filet guy, but no, you really should consider this. This is what you really want. You only have heard about this filet, but really you want this ribeye, and this is why. And if you don't like it, I'll get you the filet. If you don't, whatever. And you're like, okay, I trust this person. I love that you know their name. You leave them a big tip, all these different things because you led the conversation. Before we move on to the next point, Nick, I want to remind everybody that our free workshop, The Secret to Sales, where we're going to dive even deeper than we're diving in this podcast series, our 2-day workshop is starting next week. So if you head over to howtofilmweddings.com/sales, you can sign up there, also see all of our freebies. We're going to be pushing that as we're getting close to our course launch next week. Nick, number 4, the fourth thing, we have to spend time learning their pain points. Why are they reaching out to you in the first place? What do they want to do with their wedding video? Why is it important to them? This is the portion of the call where if you can understand what they're afraid of, what their fear is, a lot of times a couple will be like, I saw my friend Susie's wedding video and oh my gosh, it was awful. Like it was slow motion. It looked like it was The Bachelor from the 90s. It was just so bad. Or they might say, oh, my granny's getting older. She's going to make it to the wedding, but we just really want to get good footage of her. We want, it's like we really want people's voices. Asking them questions like, what do you want to do with your wedding video? What's important to you? Why? Learning their pain points helps you then position yourself as the thing that can fix that. I want to hear my grandma's voice. Well, good for that. Why don't we have her do a prayer right before the ceremony? I can mic her up. We can get her to say some nice things. Or if at the rehearsal dinner you want me to pull her aside, just ask her like how her and grandpa stayed together for so long. What advice would you have? I'm knocking over pain points, but I'm listening to those. I'm shutting up. I'm just spending time listening. Nick, what do you have to say about spending time learning about their pain points?
Yeah, this is something that really kind of took me a while to know and understand because I wanted to do really well with my consultations and have, communicate very well. And so I almost like had this script that I had memorized and I would just kind of go from point to point to point. I actually had a consult a while ago with one of our mastermind students from a couple of years ago, Bess. And as we were kind of talking about this in our mastermind, she was like, Nick, I remember talking to you and you were just like, go, 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 like flying through the consultation and not really giving me a moment to reflect or anything. And I felt like you were in a hurry to try to get done with it because you had something else to do, which was very, like an aha moment. And when it comes to pain points, like asking questions and then sitting back and listening, writing it down, that's why I say, hey, we send information over to you later. So I'm just writing down information so that I can have it whenever I send over that custom proposal that we do send to you. But another thing, like John, as you're talking, one of the things that you can do as they bring up their pain points is to kind of agitate them just a little bit whenever they're like, man, my friend's video was so bad. Like, oh, I just don't want that. But then saying, okay, why was it so bad? Like, what was it that was so bad? And like leaning into those questions, I know you kind of alluded to that, but if they bring up any type of issue, any type of problem, that is something that they are worried about. If they say, talking about, I just have to have something with my dad. Okay, why do you want something with your dad? What, like, dig into those issues that make them feel a little bit and get a little bit more emotional, and then they can see that you are that guide. And then this, I think, leads into our next point. So you're learning their pain points, but now figure out how you can value stack in this conversation. Okay, and what we mean by that, if you're like, well, we normally, we'll mic up dad and we'll do this, but as you're talking about that, you know what, I would love to, have you guys take a little bit of time and you know what, I'll spend an extra 10 minutes on the wedding day with you and your dad so that you can have a prayer together and have a conversation. I'll record, do all of those things. Just because I think that it sounds like you want to do that, and you're just adding continual value by all the stuff that you would probably normally do, but then it's just making them feel taken care of. And I'm not saying just sell them stuff and try to throw things in there. Oh yeah, I will. I can't even think of anything ridiculous, but don't promise them stuff unless you are really genuinely getting ready to do it. Another thing when it comes to kind of the value stacking side of stuff, like almost like the things that you offer and what you are good at, how I used to do consultations was I would be like, this is how our format is. They would talk about them and their wedding. And then I would, after a while, I would kind of shift it and say, well, this is what we do. And I would just kind of run through all of these points. If you are talking to them and you can bring up why you are a professional and do what you do in like the middle of what they're saying, that's going to go such a long way. They're like, man, I am so worried that, we're just not going to get someone that's going to capture all the audio. I'm like, well, in my 12 years of filming weddings, one of the things that I have always learned is you have to have a backup for your backup for your backup. And so that's why we mic up the groom, the bride, the officiant, we plug into the board, we do that, and just reassure them that is a pain point. And now I am sharing my expertise that I have in doing this without shifting the conversation to the quote unquote sales side of thing, right? I'm just kind of flowing in to that information while they are talking. And I know in the past, I don't know if any of you listeners are out there, they might actually bring up a pain point that is something that I address, but it was the wrong, quote unquote, wrong time for the conversation. So I would just wait until it was my time to shift the conversation and talk about me. So value stack and interject the things that you can do really, really well while they are speaking is something really, really nice. Really, really good.
Yeah, there is something about the way you go about it too. And I like how you mentioned kind of like the flow of a conversation. I remember when we first got going, knowing each other, we were kind of auditing your sales process and felt very robotic, and it felt very organized. And these are my steps. Step 1, this, step 2, this, step 3. And there's just something about like the art of conversation and the art of reading people's body language, which is why I like to meet in person as often as I can. But the value stacking side of things, like you can value stack your product. Well, this is why it's like, it's adding value after value after value in their mind. And they're just seeing, wow, this is why he charges what he charges, or she charges what she charges. And then the other thing that I like to do with understanding that I'm the guide and they're the hero is like the other day when I was meeting with my couple, they said something about like the storytelling in my films versus others. And they're like, I was drawn in. I don't know them, but it was just different. You could tell you took the extra time to know the story and in the way you told it. And instead of me being like, I'm glad you noticed how awesome I am, that makes me the hero. What I did and how I responded and understanding how to frame them as the hero, I said, I knew I liked you guys. And they're like, what? And I was like, for you to understand how important story is and like, I basically turned it on them and said, you noticed what I put all of my hard work into. You're the ideal person for me, because if you don't notice those things, you're not my client. You're noticing that stuff. You noticed the color. You noticed how I used the cinematography, whatever it is. So I'll ask them questions like, what made you reach out to me? And like, I'm not just fishing for a compliment. I'm looking for a way to turn it back on them, for them to be the hero, and stack that value of, yeah, I do tell stories really well, but we're a really good fit because you noticed it, and they feel good about themselves. And I'm not lying. I'm being honest. And so value stacking, though, like you said, Nick, they might be talking about first looks, or they might be talking about the timeline. And I might say, well, I've worked at this venue 8 or 10 times before. I know where that sun's going to be in October at that time. And honestly, it's going to set over the lake. It's going to be beautiful. And you're not going to want that. There's a reflection that is going to come up on the outdoor ceremony at that time. I wouldn't recommend that because of this. What I would do is this, and I'm guiding them, but they're seeing this value of like, oh my goodness, like we haven't even booked him, and he's already adding so much value. And I think that if you're looking at your consultations and your discovery calls as a way to just add value to your couples, if you're just there to serve them, even before booking them, for the longest time, I would walk through a tentative timeline with them and just give them the timeline. It's like, do you know when you're going to do your ceremony? Do you know? And they're like, no, we don't know anything. It's like, well, let me do this for you. Like, let's just put together a little timeline. And I would show them and walk them through why, like if you're doing a first look, if you're not, here's when I would do the ceremony. And they get done and they're like, can you email that to us? And it's like, yeah, for sure. But value stacking is really important. And as I was talking about like flow and understanding and reading the room, Nick, I wanted to get into just a bonus point number 6. Yeah. Oh yeah. Bonus. And this is something that I've learned a lot from our good friend over Sam Jacobson over at ID Action Consulting. If you don't follow his podcast, it's definitely worth it. But understanding that there are different buyer types, and understanding that, Nick, how you said sometimes somebody just takes over the conversation, rubs you the wrong way. Like, yes, if somebody's just a jerk about it, but they may be more of a boss type buyer that just is used to being in control, and knowing different kinds of buyers. If somebody is just like, hey, I know you want to do a consultation. I've done 100 of these. Can you just show me your prices? It's like, I don't then turn and say, no, we're going to walk through this. And I can navigate that situation by saying, yeah, that's what we're here for today. Most of our couples are going to be spending between 18 and 22,000 for a 2-day thing. More days equal more money. That's the ballpark. That's what I emailed you. I'm going to guess before we talk at all, if you want me to tell you, that it would probably be somewhere in that 22 to 24,000 range. But I don't know anything, and it's impossible to give you a custom quote until I know. So if you'll bear with me, my goal isn't, I sent you those prices at the beginning so that you knew kind of the range. My goal is not here to twist your arm. I'm going to build something for you that's exactly what you need. I'm deflating that room. I'm taking back control, but I understand that boss type is used to just making a quick decision. They're usually the CEO of their business or the owner. They just want to, hey, let's just book this thing. Let's just do it. And sometimes I'll do that and they're like, yeah, put us down for like 25 grand. And it's like, okay, like I'll build something for that. And like, it's like they want to hop off the call and leave the couple. It's like the dad or something, or the mom is this relator type, and she's just really into or a dreamer, and she's just dreaming about like this wedding. And I can play into that the more I know about that specific type of buyer. And so read the room and know what type of buyers you're working with. You don't have to give them a label. You don't have to give but different people are different and have different motivations for purchasing. And once you start understanding that, you can ask questions to the mom. It's like, why is wedding video so important for you, for your daughter? You're going to learn pretty quickly what type of buyer they are. You're going to learn pretty quickly a lot of their pain points. And if you've set up that conversation with point number 2 there, setting the tone, they already are trusting you, saying, okay, I trust this guy. I want my daughter to have a wedding film like this because I didn't have this. Oh man, I'm sorry you didn't have that. Like we can dig into that pain point, but understanding that it's not just a formula. Your consultation is not just a formula. I walk through this, and this, but it's a conversation. It is a conversation that flows where you're reading tone and you're understanding that you're guiding them and serving them. If you have those things in mind, you're going to do a lot better with your consultations. Nick, what do you have to add on either of those points that we just hit on?
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to, just read the room and know and understand. And if you, Sam, ID Action Podcast, it is a great resource for you, especially learning some stuff about buyer types and how people think and how they process and how they move stuff. We like to yell at the people that just inquire with us and saying, well, what is your pricing? Like, and maybe do they not care about what we do? Well, actually the opposite. They just might be a no fluff, let's cut to it. Just give me the information so I can know what I need to do, and then we'll figure something out later kind of person. And so there's just lots of different things and ways how you can go about and learn how to interact with these people. Because remember, we're not the important one in the story of someone's wedding. It's not our wedding. We're just there to help them and tell the story. We're there to partner with them. We're guiding them through this. And I think that so many people are a problem that a lot of filmmakers have or photographers have is whenever they have these kind of phone calls, whenever they have these kind of sales, they're making themselves be the big deal when it's actually the couple that's the big deal. And if you can keep the couple at the forefront and follow some of these things through your sales calls, you're really going to go a long way. And just to recap really quick, setting the atmosphere with your Zoom call or in person, picking that thing that is correct, setting the tone for the conversation, how you want to work with them and you want to make sure they're a good fit. You're not just there to take their money, that you are the one leading the conversation, that you're going to kind of guide them through that entire conversation. You're learning what their pain points are, figuring out why it is that they care about certain things so much. And then you're going to value stack that conversation by sharing information about yourself and what you can do and how you can use your expertise for their wedding day. And then reading the room with the couple and just kind of determining where they are and not trying to make them be what you want them to be, rather you adapting to kind of how they are with that. So really, really good information, John. Really, really good episode. I hope that this information is really helpful. I wish this was stuff that I would have learned a long time ago. I think that it would have been very, very beneficial. But as we're kind of finishing up the episode, I know you have a couple things you want to touch on about our workshop and stuff next week. So why don't you share all that?
Yeah, for sure. And as a reminder, if you're wanting to watch me book that $20,000+ wedding, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/sales. Download the free sections. You can actually get some free sections inside of our course, see what that's all about. Again, our goal with that's not to twist your arm, but if you're looking to, really update the way that you, how much you charge, if you're looking to update and make better wedding films themselves, work with better couples, this might be the course for you. It's our entire process from beginning to end to figuring out who your ideal buyer is, all the way through, delivering your films everywhere in between, behind the scenes of real weddings, all of the things in there. That will open next week, right at the end of our Secret to Sales workshop, which again, you can also sign up for. Everything today, just go straight to howtofilmweddings.com/sales. Made it really easy for you there. Nick, I love this conversation. Mm-hmm. I wish we could go deeper into it. We have hours of conversations. We have recorded consultations, different things like that inside of our course. But this is just scratching the surface. We're showing you what to do here. We want to show you how to do it inside of the course. So if this is helpful to you at all, just it's the course itself will go even further to help you be able to raise those prices, work with those couples, and create the work you absolutely love. So, Nick, great episode. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and until next time, we'll see ya.
See ya.
If you are like most wedding filmmakers, you are constantly fighting against being completely overwhelmed from your backlog. We get it, and that is why we are so excited to bring you howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing, a brand new place for you to find some of the best editors on the planet to help you get out from under the weight of your backlog. And the best part is we have personally vetted these companies to ensure that you aren't wasting your time finding editors. Whether you are looking for full-blown editors like Wedditor or brideandgroom.video, or if you're just needing someone to cull your films like Wedding Post House, we have a solution for you. So head over to howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing to check out our curated list of outsourcing experts today. That's howtofilmweddings.com/outsourcing.